Hi, this is Andrew McMillan from Moreland University, and this is my this is my self-assessment, and comparing it to what my mentor and my VC instructor um, said. Um, I think pretty much for every instance we were dead on. Um, I'm at a little bit of an advantage compared to my classmates because I held a teaching license previously from Canada, so this was not my first picnic. This was more of a refresher, and the reason I took Moreland was because the cost of Moreland was cheaper than a flight back to Canada and back to China, and there was no guarantee that I would be allowed back into China. So that was not a risk I was going to take. And my teaching license had lapsed, and I had to renew it. So I I'm coming at this from a very different perspective than most of my cohort mates. In Task Standard 1, outstanding. I think I hit all the marks in pretty much for all of in Task Standard 1. I think it was pretty um, pretty good across the board. Learner differences, uh, you know, we're not in a diverse culture here, so sometimes it's hard to create um, an atmosphere of diverse learning when especially cultures when there's only one. So what I do is it's my culture and their culture, and then we have diversity that way, and we can have diversity in other ways. You can have gender diversity, age diversity, interest diversity, diversity of thought. um, so it's pretty good, and I thought I did pretty well. Where I kind of stumbled was in my. Uh, I really wanted outstanding for this one, but I thought in Task Standard 3, I kind of stumbled, and I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna wear it, and there's not much I can do. Um, my classroom is very learner centered. This is a very marked change from when I did my BED almost 20 years ago. So there's been a paradigm shift in how we're taught. Um, um, if you looked at my class and you looked at my coworkers' classes, you notice a marked difference. Um, Even the other foreign teachers at the school just stand in front of the classroom and read a drone off a PowerPoint, and then they wonder why their students are not engaged. It's 2023, and we should be trying to create a learner centered environment at all times. Sometimes you gotta lecture, but most of the times, you shouldn't. Um, Standards and norms are great, internalized. I had to shush one of my students in my last video. But that was pretty much the only time I ever had any discipline problems with any of the kids for the whole semester. In September, I set up what I expected of them, and they really followed through. Um, Content knowledge, not a problem. Um, Always building on students' prior knowledge. Scaffolding is very important. Um, I don't call it scaffolding. I call it leveling up. I like to play video games, so like you level up, and in order to complete the level, you have to kind of go through all the steps, which is scaffolding. But I like my word better than the word scaffolding because I think of like building a house, and I'm not very handy. Um, Use a variety of different resources. Always got to keep the kids interested. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut, and it's always good to use different software packages if you're allowed, uh, different teaching techniques. And I think that's going to help me in the future. I'm Nearpod, Kahoot, quizzes, excuse me, and other things are really going to help me in the future. Um, how I apply the how I apply content is important. You can teach knowledge, but if it doesn't have a purpose, kids always want the payoff, and I always give the students the payoff. Um, use different, use a lot of multidisciplinary things in my lessons, drew from English and computer science, technology, math, economics. So I always kept it interesting, and the kids always seemed to appreciate it, and they were a lot more engaged than other classes. Assessments were fine. Um, in the last one, I did the peer evaluation. I mentioned this in my reflection, but I thought the kids did a very good job because they had never done a peer evaluation in their lives. Um, data. Okay, this is a okay for me. Um, the word data kind of scares me because I think of math, but data doesn't always have to be math. It can be, you do a formative assessment, thumbs up, thumbs down, body language. Um, you can ask this questions of the kids to see if they're getting it, see if you need to reteach. So, I guess that was always a stumbling block for me is just the word data because that kind of always made me think of numbers and math. And no matter what Moreland says, I'm not a math person. Um, we don't have any 50 504s or IEPs at my school. So I don't really deal with that. I have suspected ones, but until they're diagnosed, whatever I feel doesn't really matter. Um, that could be improved. Um, I just thought during I usually just in my class I level my English uh, based on my audience, and so I thought that was a proper accommodation. And there were times off camera where I would like translate and explain stuff in Chinese, and the kids would get it. Um, yeah, all my strategies were great. They worked really well. Um, they were appropriate for their level and interests. Sequencing was great. As always, stepping stone. I think that comes from teaching kindergarten, where you have to bang, 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 in order to uh, to get your goals. Um, questions are always important. Back and forth leads to good discussions, and I thought kids did very good. Um, Standard nine. I didn't think I had any problems, so I was outstanding on all of them as well. Personal bias is kind of like it's hard to keep them in check. I mean, unlike most teachers, I tend to be a little bit more conservative than liberal. Um, but I think it's important to have diversity of ideas. I think it's important because I can learn from my my liberal colleagues and students, and they can learn from me, and we can achieve our goals together. It's important. Um, in task standard 9/4, this is a toughie because sometimes the relevant laws in China don't really make a lot of sense. There's topics that we're not allowed to talk about because it makes the students feel uncomfortable. But that's what learning is about. is being uncomfortable because you're doing something previously you couldn't do. So I thought that's the only problem I have, and that's a problem I'm always going to have here, especially with my son's education because he's being slowly indoctrinated into the system, and I don't like that. Um, I always um, reflect on how I'm doing, get feedback from coworkers and stuff. So I think that's pretty good. Um, Leadership. I mean, I'm going to a new school in August, so hopefully I can start a club. Maybe something a little bit better than a English corner. Thinking maybe a video game club. Bring in my Xbox and teach the kids how to play NHL or MLB the Show. Maybe if the school will let me. Uh, I always try not only to create projects, but also be show how leadership can look like in the classroom and to be a good example. I think that's more important than most of the stuff that's mentioned here. Um, Personal opinion. Uh, and I think I completed everything. Um, and I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time and have a great evening.